I get it.
It's all good. All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praise, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem HaKadosh. That's the true name of the Heavenly Father, through the true name of the only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly through deception calls on Jesus the Christ, okay? And we'd also like to give double honors to our elders, our bishops, and our apostles of Great Millstone that do rule well. And we'd like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, because the Lord's elect is prophesied to be the only ones to make it out of the coming destruction of Babylon, okay? So we say peace and salutations to the Lord's predestinated elect. So even though this gospel, this good news is for the nation of Israel, it's only going to be the elect out of the elect of Israel that will be delivered out of this go-around, okay? And if you did not know, we are the true biblical Hebrew Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and those scattered abroad according to the diaspora, all right? And we'd also like to say, Tawada Yabash Melshai, Bashim Kakwadas, for putting it on our spirit to come out here on the highways and hedges, for being able to receive this treasure in this earthly vessels, okay? In this earthly vessel, this chains of darkness, you know? So we're just out here in the highways and hedges as we're commanded to, okay? Because we are living in the last days, all right? And as you see, prophecy is taking place.
Yep.
Everyone is everyone is in their position that they would be before the rain fell, okay? Because the rain is about to come, because we're in the days of Noah all over again. But in these days that are equated to the days of Noah, it's reserved under fire.
That's right.
All right, so this place is ultimately set up to be destroyed in the next world's woe.
That's right.
So everybody here in Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed if they're not of the elect.
That's right.
Let that sink in, man. What you got, bro?
Got this in the GNT. You want that First Peter?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to talk to the body.
All right. Now right here, this is the GNT, and the ledger says suffering as a Christian.
Yep.
And
suffering as a following the anointed.
Right.
All right. We're following the anointed. Everyone out here has some kind of form of belief, a brag, or some kind of pride when it comes to the knowledge of the Bible, while they live an average, everyday, getting ready to be rained on lifestyle.
Yep.
All you people are just nothing more than niggas that are about to get wet.
Yep.
But then you'll come out and think that you could tell us about the Bible, but you don't got the spiritual diagram to build the ark.
Right.
We over here building the ark, and someone comes up talking about it's Yahweh. You like, yeah, all right. And we're just back to building.
Yep.
You know?
I got a quick precept.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
This is 2 Peter 3. Actually, yeah.
One.
Yeah, sorry, 1. Yeah. 2 Peter 3 and verse 1.
It says, moving the people will move the world forward.
Wow.
So who's moving the world forward? It's Yahweh Bashmal Shai. And since we said that, after you get that, let's go to Sirach 10 in the GNT.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is 2 Peter 3, starting at the top. It says, this second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, and both which I stir up your pure minds by way of remembrance. So we had to remember. We had to be allowed to remember who we are, because it says there's no remembrance of former things. Right.
So this is a spiritual inclination. This is something that happened to our spirit within, even though our body has to deal with this without. Something happened in our spirit that the naked eye couldn't see. That's why it says they think it's strange. We're going to go in and you run not with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're going to have to hold all these three together and go into it. Because it sums up what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? With the average servant that's been awoken. Not every Israelite is actually awoken.
Right.
They may be awoken to their tribe, but they're not woken to the breath of life.
Right. Verse 2, and it reads, that ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandments of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior.
So you have to apply what the prophecy says.
Right.
You can't just be out here on your own accord without applying your reaction to the words given to the holy prophets. That's just how the doctrine is created. You see, you got a lot of our people that are not operating off of the Holy Spirit through prophecy.
And it reads, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lust.
Their own opinion. So a lot of people right now are showcasing their opinion when it comes to the truth. And when you notice, you got a cohort of lost Israelites sticking up for Edom. And chiefly the number one is Eve. Eve is the number one mascot for Esau's deception.
Yep.
When you actually sit back and see who's really fighting for Edom, while Edom ain't in the room, it's Eve. And then it's Jake.
Yep.
Because Jake has a mommy complex. So they naturally look as the woman as an elder, but we were before the woman.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. And it says, verse 4, and saying, where is the promise of his coming?
Now someone could say, what do you mean you're before the woman when it says moving creatures were created in the water, right?
Right.
Well, then I tell you this, Adam was given the breath of life, and then Eve was set up as a helpmeet. So the man was set up before the woman.
That's right.
Okay, that's the image. And that's the head, that's the order.
Right.
When you go into it. And you always see the natural design in a natural disaster.
Right.
Right now, we're in the metropolis, right? In this mothered city, you don't see order because a woman doesn't have to do much except for have opinion on what color sprinkles or ice cream she wants. But until the power goes out or until men is fisted cuff, then her natural role steps in and she pushes you in the front.
That's right. That's right. And it reads, 2 Peter 3 and verse 4, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation.
Yeah, so right now, man doesn't believe what we're saying is going to come to pass.
Right.
So that's why they'll use the 2000 doctrine that was taught at One West at one point in time from our elders. So they'll use that to say this is false, but they never use their same offense on their own camp. Christians don't tackle the Christian community the way they try to tackle us. Because Christianity, when I was in the world, Christians were telling me that the last Christmas was like 2015, 16.
Right.
But nobody rebuked him. Nobody rebuked Christians for telling you Obama was the Antichrist.
Right.
You know? Christians don't even get on their own Christians. And you Christians are hypocrites. You all got on flat-nosed, wide-faced K-dub for talking to some woman on the internet when all you niggas are lusting after women too.
That's right.
Only a hypocrite will check you for dealing with a woman that he's lusting after too.
Right.
But because you got caught, now he wants to do his job. Shut the fuck up.
Right.
You human?
We all want to grab the ass button.
Exactly.
You know?
Because you did, now I gotta report you.
Verse 2 Peter 3 and 5. It says, for this they willingly are ignorant.
Yeah, they're willfully ignorant. So don't deal with them. Eve comes up, do not call her sis.
Please don't, right?
Why does she get to be called sis? When you look up the online etymology for the word sister, it means a female fellow Christian. It means a woman in the same faith. And then in 1926, it referred to a black woman, and then it evolved to a fellow sister in feminism. All right?
Wow.
So you need to be careful who you're calling sis.
Right. Straight up. And it reads, verse 5, that by the word of the Most High, the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the word that then was, being overflowed with water, perished.
Being overflowed with water perished. So what are we in? We're in the days of Noah, meaning the same way people would be acting in the days of Noah. Business as usual. They had schools, meaning like a school of thought.
Yep.
You know, they had altars, they had idols, okay? They had sex, women, drinking.
Yep.
All right? They had jobs. They had their own towns and villages.
Business as usual.
Business as usual. Then I asked ChatGPT, what was a vivid picture of rain in the days of Noah? And it said the rain because they call it a deluge, like a big water. So the water was so heavy, it said that it made trees bow.
Damn.
You know? But don't it say every knee shall bow?
That's right.
Before Yahweh, the name of Yahweh Shai?
Yeah.
So that when that flood, that wasn't no light sprinkle. That's why even John referred to them as hailstones.
Yes.
All right, those nukes are going to be very aggressive.
That's right.
You know, those nukes are going to grape you.
Ooh.
Grape means to be taken.
Man.
Them warheads are going to take these people.
That's right.
All right.
Damn. And it reads 2 Peter 3 and verse 7.
But this is what they'd be doing.
Yeah.
Scoffing, lusting, losing, you know, doing nothing. Useless eaters.
Right.
Having an aggressive opinion about vanity. That's why the Lord is about to decimate his creature.
Right.
They said when the flood came, this is what ChatGPT said. When the flood came, there was an eerie holiness.
Oh, wow.
Because it got to the point when the water finally covered everything, it was silent.
Wow.
And it was gloomy.
Wow.
If you think about it, all you saw was an ark just kind of buoyantly floating while everything else was silent.
Wow.
You think about that though, you know?
Wow.
It was silence.
Man.
Silencio. So there's coming a time where there's going to be silence. Wickedness is going to be silence.
That's right.
Because it says, I will hold my tongue no more as touching her wickedness.
That's right.
So if you don't shut up before the prophets, that's because the Lord's going to shut you up.
Right.
Because prophecy is going to have a mouth that you can't gainsay or resist. How you going to gainsay a chariot?
Ooh.
How you going to gainsay a death angel? How you going to gainsay no day like it?
Right. Man. And it reads back in 2 Peter 3 and verse 7. But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept and stored, reserved unto fire.
So the same way man is being distracted by reservations for his box, right?
Right.
His little friend, your little buddy that you play house with, all right, that little girl that you take out, you're being distracted with those reservations. You found a parking spot? All right. We was trying to make him move, but I think he's a dasher.
You might be leaving.
Okay.
That's why I just stayed right there.
Okay. Read that again.
Yep. 2 Peter 3.
But yeah, going back to reserved, because that's the thing, you know, you get reservations.
Yeah.
But that's all the woman, she's fickle. That's her role. She just wants to.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Oh,
Well,
right.
I'll just take anyone.
What,
Thank
bro?
you.
Thank
Thank
Yeah,
you,
man.
brother. Isaiah, I'm thirsty. But the same way man's distracted right now, that's why Yahweh Shai said it's the days of Noah.
That's right.
You know, that's why the body, the Holy Spirit is pushing for brothers. You know, if there's certain things that you need to cut it off, you know, you acknowledge it first, but you got to cut it off, man. And that first day is a very glorious day, too.
That's right.
But let's keep going.
2 Peter 3 and 7, and it reads, by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire.
So this is reserved under fire. The Lord has reserved, what is it, 200 million?
Yeah.
200 million guests for Babylon.
Ooh.
Like, what's that hoe, that hoochie, that Edomite woman that be letting all the men pop her?
Oh, yeah, I forgot her name. Yeah.
Gabby or something?
It's the Stickler's mom.
Right. Her, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Right. So this woman, she can equate Babylon.
Yep.
So she be having 1,000 men run in her. Well, isn't this a whore?
Mm-hmm.
So now, since you want to play the
right.
whore, we got 200 million rods for you.
That's right.
Okay?
That's right.
So get ready for that. Since you want to play the hoochie, you about to meet it, man.
That's right.
You about to go through what you need to go through.
Right.
And all your little hoe-ass babies that came from this hoochie-ass box is going to have to die with mommy.
That's right.
You're going to have to die to death, man. All you people are nothing but weird monsters and offsprings from this corruptible coochie of Babylon, man.
Right.
That's why the old man used to pop this whore, and now the new man is disgusted with her.
That's right.
You're a new man now. So don't be going back to that old horny way.
Right, man.
You know?
That's right.
The strange
Right.
apparel.
That's right. Real quick, this is Revelation 18 and verse 8. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 7. It says how much she had glorified herself.
Start at 1 again.
Yep.
Let's get all the meat. Hey, the famine of the word is coming.
This is a fire chapter, man.
The famine of the word is coming. Let's just start at 1.
Fire chapter.
And I'm holding Sirach 10. Can you hold Sirach 10? This is GMT. If the Spirit brings out, I want to go into 10 and 1 to get on these unprofitable leaders too.
That's right.
But we're building. It's a build-up.
This is the book of Revelation 18 and verse 1. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen, is fallen.
So there's a time where our heavenly family, okay, is going to introduce themselves back to us.
Man.
You have to understand now that you've woken up that the Heavenly Father is real. Yahweh Shai is real. You really are the only family. You know what proves the Lord's real? There's humans.
Yeah.
You see what the book is saying is happening. It's happened.
Exactly.
This is real. But you're in such a deceptive world, like me and you were speaking about, what was that, the fourth Matrix?
Yeah.
Where you ever see that fourth Matrix? Where they made Neo think that he wasn't the one and he was just a game designer?
Yeah.
That was like us as Gentiles. You were just the best carpenter,
right,
or the best worker, and then they kept you in such a spell that you believed it.
Yep.
We're surrounded by a delusional degenerates. This is a vain generation. You people mean nothing. We created this earth that they're standing on.
Exactly.
So don't let creature that's on our planet make you think otherwise.
Right. That's why that's why he says in Sirach 10 and the King James version, it says why is earth and ashes proud?
Right.
These people, they're just nothing but dust bags.
Well, that's Wisdom of Solomon 3. But also, why does the heathen imagine a vain thing?
Right.
You know who imagines a vain thing? A woman with black leggings on with a little bit of meat behind her. Don't let that shit get you,
right,
man. You gotta really tap into God mode. You know? Let me get this real quick since you said that. This is Wisdom of Solomon 3 and 12. Excuse me. Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 12. Wisdom of Solomon 5 and 13. Even so we, in like manner, as soon as we were born, began to draw to our end. So this is why this culture of chaos tells you YOLO.
Right.
The only reason he tells you YOLO is because we've lived multiple times. So he wants to tell you, you only live once.
Wrong.
Who told you that you are right?
Right.
Why do we have to believe he's right and we're wrong? Why do we have to believe what man says? It says, and had no sign of virtue to shew, but were consumed in our own wickedness. For the hope of the ungodly is like dust that is blown away with the wind. So the hope of the ungodly is just as dust here today and gone tomorrow.
That song.
Remember that Eve when she blew the dust and spell?
Yeah. Yep.
Like that.
Yep.
You know, like that bag just blew away. You know?
Nothing.
Nothing. That's what these people are.
Nothing, bro.
Nothing.
That's why it says, I forgot what book it is, what chapter, excuse me, but it says every morning the Lord judgment come to light.
Yep.
Like you can just die like that.
Yep.
You know, it says that in James says that like people don't say Lord's will.
Nope.
They just say I'm going to go on vacation next year.
Yep.
It cannot be a Babylon next year. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. You got people planning Grateful Dead concerts for next year.
Yep.
So my neighbor told me, I'm planning on going to Grateful Dead next year. It was awesome. I was like, oh, word?
Yeah, and they are dead.
Be next year.
Thank you. I hope there's not.
Exactly.
I'm at my job. They're already talking about what we're going to do for winter. And I'm like, damn.
Winter.
What we're going to do for winter? You know?
Yeah.
And it says, like a thin froth that is driven away with the storm, like as the smoke which is dispersed here and there. See how the smoke is just here and there?
Right.
That's all you are. But people are just arrogant. They're proud. They're full of demons that have them delusional.
Right.
You know, you see these women, it's freezing out, and she's got her fucking If she was in school, the school would have told her to go home.
Yeah.
Remember the skirt test?
Yep.
It's freezing out, and she's wearing, you know,
Yeah.
half her body showing. People showcase, they showcase you their mental capacity.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Back in Rev 18 in verse 2, and it reads.
Then it's a days a lot, so it's transmission and motorcycles.
Oh, man.
But that's why it says the Lord gonna take out the chariot and his rider.
That's right. Kill two birds with one stone.
You bitch.
Rev 18 and 2. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, and this proves the angels are men, right?
Yes, the angels are men.
So-called
Angel
black
just
men.
means messenger,
Right.
but the angels of the angels that do the bidding of Yahweh Shemel Shai are men.
Mm-hmm.
Look, everybody got a helmet on but her.
Migrants. That's him.
But everybody got a helmet but her. I hate that stiff-necked spirit. That shit is, it don't work. Like, you trying to move and do shit, then you got someone that always got to say but with a but.
Right.
It don't work.
That's 11. Rev 18 and 2, it says, and he cried mightily with a loud, strong voice, saying, Babylon, the great is fallen.
Yeah, and Babylon is adverse and anti to Yahweh Shemel Shai. That's why the Lord don't deal with confusion, but this place is called confusion. See? Babel. What's Babel mean? Confusion. That's all it is. The other day I went to the store to buy something, and the sweet young lady behind the counter, she said, do you want to get a warranty and blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, break it down to me. She broke it down to me, and I said, well, if I do this, do I immediately get that? And she didn't have the answer, so I said, nah, I don't want to do it. And you know what she said? Well, why not? I said, because of the confusion. You're having me spend something, you're having me spend $10 extra to so-called get $60 on a gift card, but you're not telling me if what I'm buying, do I mail it in, do I keep it? So she said, well, why don't you want? I said, because of confusion. It don't make sense. Everywhere's confusion.
Then on top of that, everywhere's confusion, and every time it's confusion, it's always a woman.
Yep.
In power.
Yep.
You know?
And women are lazy.
Yeah, man.
I work with women. You're fucking lazy. I got to do your job and my job. I hate someone that makes excuses. A sinful man will not be reproved, but make it an excuse.
Right.
You always make it an excuse. Then you go to work and they say, we're a team. Well, I said, where the fuck's the coach? If we're a team, where's the coach?
Right.
This nigga in the Barbados with a cheetah print Speedo on. Come on, man. I'm telling you, Babylon is being audited. Can you look up the definition of audit? You got your phone on you, brother? I could do it.
Go on.
Babylon's being audited. Eve is being audited. Jake is being audited. Everyone's being checked. And that's prophecy. I will search Jerusalem with candlesticks and judge every man settled on their lease. Everyone is settled, man. With a damn Hot Pocket and a Amazon Prime account.
Yep. Back in Revelation 18 and verse 2, and it says, Babylon's fallen.
Good.
And it's right, great.
Great.
and it's become the habitation of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird.
Yeah, it's going to be a demonic place when this is destroyed.
Yeah.
It's going to show all the spirits that were on these people.
Yeah, bro.
You know?
For real, man. And it reads, for all nations. And
is Jake a part of the nations?
Yeah.
So Jake drunk that juice too.
Oh, yeah.
When what's his name? The cult leader? Jim Jones, thank you. When Jim Jones, you know who his main congregation was? Extremely black Jake woman. They were fucking crispy. You know? Crispy ass black woman drinking the juice. Leave her alone, man.
Loving it too.
Look, yep, asking for a double.
Man. And it reads, it said verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
And we could go into it. Democracy. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, I believe. You know? The Federal Reserve Act that was established through the secret meeting in Jekyll Island, and that's why they gave you a dramatic version of the Titanic sinking, because there were in particular people that needed to die on that ship so that the elite can control the spending system. Okay? That's why you got the Federal Reserve note.
And it reads, and the kings of the earth.
Presidents.
Yeah.
This is why Moab is now doing away with Western culture. This is why now Putin is denouncing femi boys.
Yeah.
You know? Because people are seeing what the influence of Babylon can do to their people. But what about us? No one is saying that we need to let go of Western culture.
Right.
Why is Donald Trump pardoning a young boy? You see that Larry Hoover got pardoned?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that.
But you know what? Esau used to do that when Esau was fighting Gad, like from 1492 to the 1900s. 1814 is really when he started to do a number on Gad. But do you know that Esau used to arrest notable leaders amongst Gad and our people, and then he would release them as if trying to showcase peace? So he released Larry Hoover so he could catch niggas with their pants that are already down.
So he released the 2/3 nigga.
Yes,
Yeah.
like Barabbas.
It's like a trade.
Yes, yes,
Look,
to make you think that he's not
give
so.
you Larry. I seen fucking grown ass men crying on fucking TikTok over this nigga.
Because they're hurt, because they're not healed,
Yep.
and they're drunk. Go and read it again.
Yep. Rev 18:3. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication.
If you cried because Larry Hoover got released, you're drunk.
Get through.
You see?
Yeah,
That-
grown ass man, older than me.
But that's the thing. They're still boys. They
Yeah.
they have an adult age, but their mind is still a boy. That's why it says, when I was a child, I put away childish things. Or when I was a child, I spoke as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. So when you look at Jake right now, they're childish. My homeboy, my crib, you know?
That's right. And it reads, and the kings of the earth.
My homegirl.
Right. Real though. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her.
That's Psalms 83. That's why when you look, there's a lot of there's a lot of heathens that operate in democracy while still having a shell of their nation's culture, like Saudi Arabia. They're bought and paid for. Amalek is sprinkled in there too.
Yeah.
That's what the crafty council's all about, you know? Esau Edom knows what he's doing with the elites. You don't got too many rogue heathens out here.
Right.
I believe Persia doesn't have a central bank, but that's why that's why they're surrounding them now.
And it reads, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies.
Yeah, the imported, exported. And the first merchants that waxed rich was Amalek, funding the slave ships to bring over livestock. Okay? So before you start glorifying yourself in free labor with robots, the first free labor was us as slaves.
Yep.
That was the first free labor. You know?
That's right.
What you got, bro?
It's funny because I seen a dude inside Whole Foods and he was complaining. He said, "Damn, we can't say nothing around here." That's right, because you want them to be robots, mindless servants.
Yep. That's Babylon.
That's why I was thinking about what you just said.
Exactly. When you go into any business, there's policies that you have to, you can't pop a woman in the building you work at, but she can walk around with her fucking titties out, her chest meat and her ass out, but you gotta tuck your nuts in. But she's married and she could touch you, she could flirt with you, but if you pop her, now you gotta go to the office and you gotta sign a policy that you didn't even know existed. Because this whole place is to keep you dross. It keeps you dumb. It doesn't want you to be colorful. You know? That's why they give you a salary. This place is evil, man.
Yeah, man. That's right.
Yep, the real human. Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahushai B'Shem Kakadash Barakatam. To the brothers, man. And the very few sisters. To the elect ladies.
Bro,
Right?
Right. The people, sheep,
Yeah.
right.
See, there's a very small remnant together. We're together in the spirit. That's why only us, the reality can be talked about and none of us are offended at it because the shoe don't fit us.
Right. Back in Rev 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins.
Now that's going to be literal.
Right, exactly, right.
I remember years ago, we were the beloved brothers from Buffalo on Passover, and the Elder Zion was going into that.
Yep.
You know? So what's that? What's that? Meaning literal. You might be running, you know, or walking, because we're also tapping into the time of the Lord really dealing with us, you know? Well, we're really sitting here as faithful servants. So we have to go through it to have this sense of spiritual calmness, all right? You could have car issues, but you're not tripping. That's why we got to go back to 1 Peter 4.
I still got that.
Okay? Because we're not tripping, man. Okay? So now we're in a time where we're really tapping into that spiritual power of faith. So we know that soon the Lord's gonna deliver us out of this current situation and leave these people in it. You don't think people was banging on the ark?
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
People wasn't screaming. You don't think, and I don't mean to be sound lewd, you don't think there was titties pressed against the ark?
Right.
Trying to get in?
Claw marks, people digging in
Yeah.
nails.
Yeah,
Trying to go, now you wanna ride.
Yep.
See?
Are you done scoffing now?
Right.
And it reads, Rev 18:4, and that ye receive not.
You had people put your foot on.
Right.
You had people putting your foot on,
Yeah.
trying to jump up.
Try to make a human ladder.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
But that's why I said the Lord sealed it.
Right.
The Lord had to shut it. Just like this, the Lord has to seal it. The Lord had to seal this for this to be moving. You know?
Right. Oh, look at that.
What?
The bird flying over.
Yep. And that was like the dove, remember? Noah let the dove out.
Right.
Then it came back with a branch.
Back in Rev 18:4.
Because that's like the days of Noah. When the flood started subsiding, it was like, okay, now the judgment is finished. So like the judgment for Babylon is going to come to a point where the earth is going to stop shaking.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And time is going to change when this all takes place. Time is going to change. It may feel, we don't know how long it's going to feel us looking down and them in the lake of fire. You know?
Damn, man. And you know, when you try to put out fire, it take a little minute for it to, you can put it out, but it's still hot. You know, you put the fire out, but it's still steaming, smoking. You know, that's why it makes sense. I'm gonna keep reading.
Well, that's why when you go on a camping trip, and you got a fire that goes out, the first thing you do is put your hand over the coals, and you'll kind of feel heat still.
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, we can restart it again. You know?
That's right. That's why it says in Rev 18. You know, keep reading. It says that the nation seen her the smoke, afar off.
Yep.
You know, because that fire is gonna, it's gonna be a minute, bro. And it said that also says it's gonna take 1 hour. You know, so that's a lot of warheads, man.
And then we're gonna have to come down and deal with the people that were crying for her burning. That makes me mad now. And we ain't even out of here yet.
Man. Back in Rev 18 and verse 4, and it says, verse 5, excuse me. For her sins have reached unto heaven.
Yep. So the Lord, the eyes of the Lord upon the sinful kingdom.
That's right.
Just like the Tower of Babel. So you did it, Joe. You did it, Joe. Remember she said that? So you did it, Esau. You created your Tower of Babel and you reached the heavens. And remember in that CERN, he got hit with one of the Edomite scientists got hit with a particle, and he said he heard tickle.
Yep.
Meaning many, many tickle. And Daniel, thou hast been found wanted in Wade, and that's the night that Babylon went down by a precision strike from the Persians and the Medes, which was prophecy. So Esau Edom created some kind of contraption to tap into the spirit world, and when he poked his head in, all right, when he poked his head in, he got hit with a particle, and he heard tickle.
Right.
What you got?
This is 2nd Esdras 9 and 12. And this is going back to the destruction. The same must know it.
Read it loud, brother.
This is the book of 2nd Esdras, verse 9, chapter 9, verse 12.
Nueve y doce. Look, 144.
The same must know it after death by pain.
You're gonna know death by pain. You're gonna know death. Oh, where is thy, death, where's thy sting? Because with death, there's a sting to the flesh.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't tell you it from personally because we don't remember dying, even though we have, but the scriptures let us know there's a certain experience that you may feel in death. And that's pain, you know? So they're getting ready to feel pain with death. As it says, get ready to meet thy maker. Was that it on that?
Yeah.
And there actually, there's a little more, but that's good. Because, you know, it says here a little, there a little. But it goes into like them receiving benefits. Now they're talking about snaps, welfare being cut off. Okay, so Babylon is tightening the squeeze on its citizens so they conform to his constriction.
Right.
You know? So he about to fucking put you in like a double chokehold.
Real, man.
It's only a matter of time before they start cutting Social Security.
Yep.
Even Medicaid. They said you're going to have to start working for Medicaid.
Yep.
If you don't have,
See?
Yeah.
See?
And you know, I speak as a man, but it makes sense why, you know, they're cutting these things off and they can put that shit right in the, you know, your C-hip.
Yep.
You know, all in one.
Yep.
You know?
Making you follow wherever the government's going for benefits.
Right.
So first cut off, minimize it.
Right.
You know, like you got to minimize it,
Perfect word.
and then you bring it back with these stipulations.
but that's how you catch a fish, right?
Right.
You gotta narrow the path.
Yep.
And then then you funnel them in.
Yep. That's good. Oh, my people are led as a flock to the slaughter.
Perfect.
See?
And that's how you catch any animal.
Yeah.
You narrow the path so it's a very small
Yep.
area to come into, and then you pick them off one by one.
And you know what you do with a sheep? You force the first one to go.
Yeah.
And then they all follow right with it.
Yeah.
Damn. And then last night the elders what's that from Dallas, we watching their live stream and they said they were talking to an Edomite and he said he would take to see him.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So and that's just one you know, Babylonian. So how much more diverse these people are here?
Which he represents the standard mindset of an average American.
Yep.
The average American is not adequate to think critically. The average American doesn't know how to think for themselves outside emotionally. They know how to think for themselves for what they want to eat, who they want to have sex with, live with, be friends with, but they don't know how to critically think about an actual leader. Let's get Sirach 10
Perfect.
in the GNT, brother. Read that loud.
This is the
Read it
book-
loud and proud.
This is the book of Sirach, chapter 10. Chapter 10 in the GNT.
Yep.
And hated by everyone in town.
No, down, right at that one. It said, you'll see the one
Salakia.
before it.
Salakia. A wise ruler will educate his people.
A wise ruler is going to educate. So you're going to be educated.
Right.
So when you look at a boss at your job, are they actually educating you so that, exactly. So like me, I'm a subcontractor. So I literally run my boss's job, but he didn't teach me how to do it. But now does he give me more money for doing it? No, because he's not a wise leader, because Babylon allows injustice to be glorified. See?
It's like you're saying, figure it out.
Exactly.
Right.
But then if you don't, I'm gonna fire you. But that's what Babylon allows. Confusion, illegitimate leadership. This is why women have compassed a man. Women cause the most confusion out of Esau. They say, I don't know what I want, but you need to be a mind reader. And what Jim Carrey say in Pet Detective, he said, you don't want to go in there.
Right.
You know, you don't want to go in the mind of a woman. If you already got a battle, thoughts in your own head, why would you want to jump in a weaker vessel's head? Hell no. Hell nah. This is why we just got to lead. And you gotta accept the leadership. Even with us as a camp, we carry ourselves in a certain spirit, and then the camp has to follow that. Camp head, second command, third. You have elders, bishops, shepherds, leaders. You see? Leading us towards Yahweh Shai. No one else out here is telling us what the Holy Spirit is telling you.
Right.
Who's telling you to have a better diet? You know, cut certain things off. You know, work out more. Be a better, no one. But everyone is expecting you to have a certain criteria to be accepted from them.
Right.
And then when you get accepted from them, you're just accepted for a season, and you found out it was just vanity.
Yep.
So why do we want to be accepted with a world that's prophesied to be put under the lake? You know?
Straight up, man. That's right. Keep going, front up, man.
And his government will be orderly.
Yep, well ordered. Now let's get Isaiah 9 and 6. Because John 3:16 is referring to the nation of Israel And hey, let's go deep, but just one deep. John 3:16 in a prophetic context is just referring to the house of David, which is going to be the elect when you think about it. Because all Israel is saved through the small remnant, which is the house of David, which is the elect. When you look at it, right? Because he said, I prayed not for the world, but I pray for them which thou hast given me. So this whole thing is about the elect. It ain't just about, sister, come here quick, right?
That's right.
Come here. No, this is about the elect.
That's right.
The sisters that believe, that's because the Lord stirred you up. The brothers that believe, that's because the Lord stirred you up. It ain't us. Paul plant, water Apollos. It ain't us. You could plant water and the Lord could send a flood.
Yeah.
So you watered and planted for nothing. It's spring and it's cold right now.
This is Isaiah 9 and verse 6. For unto us a child is born.
Unto the Israelites a child is born. Unto the people that was brought here in chattel slavery, a child was given unto them for their salvation. The ones that wander aimlessly, who try to fight for equality, who are still in the common ghetto since their conception in Babylon.
Yep. And it reads,
I don't know you and you don't know me, but we go through the same shit. He said, I eat top ramen just like you, and I became your enemy because you chose red and I chose blue. Mm-hmm. You shooting me because I chose blue and you got red?
Man. And it reads, for unto us a child is born.
Yes.
Unto us a son is given.
A son was given for us. A son was given for us. Keep going.
And the government.
And the government. This harmonious arrangement, right? Like the Hasmonean dynasty.
Right.
The Davidic dynasty.
Right.
Okay? The Davidic dynasty. The house of David. The gates of hell that shall not prevail. This is what it's talking about.
Right.
This is the government that's going to reestablish what Yahushua prophetically solidified. So if you're not focusing on that government, what you focus on is in vain. Majority of Israelites that are on the streets are fixating themselves on vanity.
And it reads, it says, and the government shall be upon his shoulders.
Don't it say in Hosea 3 and 5 that Israel shall seek their king?
Yep.
Don't it say in Deuteronomy 28 and 34, I believe, or 36, our king will go into captivity? Do you know who our king is that went into captivity in Deuteronomy?
No.
King David. Reincarnation. That's why we believe through faith as our elders, King Masha of One West was Moses, and then King David coming back. That was our king. We all went into slavery. Yahushua was born in a Roman captivity, you know? But for edification, let me just make sure I quoted the right curse. I can ask IUIC real quick. They got a hotline. Yep, Deuteronomy 28:36. The Lord shall bring thee, the nation of Israel, and thy king, King David reincarnated, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. Christianity, you know, white Eurocentric Christianity is under curses. Why we served it, why Jake believes in it now, you know. You had a point, Kradazaba?
This is Ecclesiastes 1 and 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem.
Who's that? Who's that king?
Son of David,
Yep.
king in Jerusalem.
Who's the son of David, king of Jerusalem?
Solomon.
Yep, King Solomon. Who in reincarnation is also who?
Marsha's son.
No, who's King Solomon in the?
Yahushua.
Yep, yep.
The words, this is Ecclesiastes 1 and 1. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, vanity of vanities, save the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity.
All is vanity. Now go to 14. All is vanity. The human experience is vanity. I love you. You love me. Date night. Whee! I get it, but at the end of the day, it's vain. You can do those things as long as you're being a servant first.
Right.
You're breaking down. You're reading down. You're getting your scriptures. You're not leaking oil. All those things, as long as you're maintaining your BI, yeah, you dabble in this and that. But you got men that get overtaken with that more than this.
Yep. And even when you do dabble, it's still in the back of your mind about serving the Lord.
Yep.
About prophecy.
Yep.
You know, so it's like, you know, like this world's not comforting.
No.
But the scriptures are. Yahweh Shai is the brotherhood, you know?
I give you peace, but not as this world giveth.
Perfect.
Yeah, a woman could give me peace for the night, a piece of ass.
Right.
But then that's it, baby.
But after that piece of ass,
It's like, fuck.
How do I get out of here?
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. See, the Israelite
Yeah.
man is really more in captivity.
yeah.
The Israelite man, because we have such a mental capacity that the average individual doesn't have, or the average Israelite doesn't have. So what we think about, meditate in our responsibilities, on top of that, is far greater than the average citizen in Israel, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But verse
Right.
14,
Ecclesiastes 1 verse 14. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit.
read that again.
I have verse 14.
It says there's laughter, but after sorrow.
I have seen all the works that are done
Look,
under
everybody,
the sun,
look at the words.
and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit.
At the end of the day, all the work is vain. It's vain. What is it doing? When you sit here and try to downgrade the message because we're not giving out processed food and noodles and canned goods, that's a vexation because it's vanity. I'm feeding you food for you to sustain yourself to go be more wicked. You know? That's why it says, he that suffereth in the flesh cease from sin. Maybe they need to suffer so they don't sin.
Yeah.
If you give Jake reparations right now, he'll die. Some Jakes are alive because they can't afford to OD.
Damn.
And you got Sirach 10, but we're in,
Isaiah 9.
yup, the government. And then we'll go back to Sirach 10.
Back in Isaiah 9 and verse 6. And the government shall be upon his shoulder.
Yeah, government, mind control. Because your mind needs to be controlled.
Yep.
We need to have your mind. I'll tell a woman that quick. You may give me your body, but I need your mind too.
Yep.
Because if I don't have your mind, then it's vanity. Yeah, but it's like dealing with a kid that's got ADHD. He just can't set her in. He can't, he's just gone. You gotta make him single-eyed. You gotta be single-eyed in this truth. Keep going.
And it reads, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father.
The everlasting Father. You know, it's gonna be Yahweh Shai's kingdom on earth. You know, we're getting ready to experience the immersion, if that's a word, the immersing into the new covenant, meaning the fruit that comes with it being written in us. Like how we get inspired through the Holy Spirit. Now imagine when we get changed in the twinkle of an eye. You know, like the other night, I had this dream. It was weird, but it was like my body kept trying to change, but I couldn't yet. You know, I'm not gonna go deep into it, but we feel something in our spirit that needs to be changed, is what I'm getting at. We need to be bursted from these bonds, okay?
And it reads, excuse me, it says the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace.
Yeah, and he's the Prince of Peace because he gave us peace back to the Father, hence why we've been reconciled. Now we can call ourselves sons.
Right.
We the sons.
Sonship.
That's why there's something called an adoption,
Right.
you know? And that only refers to us. Was that it?
It's a little more.
All right.
Verse 7. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end.
Boom. So when our government is established, there will not be an end. You got Israelites talking about we're going to get overtaken in our kingdom.
Come on, man.
What?
Come on, man.
Why are we called princes of power then?
Come on. And it says, that goes against prophecy. You're adding to the word, man.
So you're a false prophet.
Yes.
You're a false prophet, and you're not anointed with the gospel. If I was at IUIC, I would have got up. You know how you get up and the chair slides? I'd have flipped that shit.
Yeah, man.
I'd have walked the fuck out my face. I'd have walked right out that. I'm not carnal, but I'll look a nigga in his eye quick, man. Right the fuck out my way, Obadiah. You know, like,
Obadiah Yisrael.
you know, got this long ass beaded beard with his
Shao Kahn.
Hey, you better sit down while Bishop's talking. You gotta escape, flee from the tents of these wicked men.
And it reads, Isaiah 9:7.
I had to pray to escape the clasps of ISPK, man. I went to that class as a lost sheep, and I was the only one in there, and I looked behind me, and there was a wicked Benjamite just standing at the door. I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna get out of here? You know what I mean? I had to figure out a way to escape them, man. I said, my bus is coming. Hey, we'll give you a ride. You know, like everything I was saying, you know? And then they had a Freemason sticker on their camp van.
Wow.
Yeah, so how about that? Mr. 501c3.
And it reads,
Which a 501c3, like the elders from South Carolina were going into, all the 501c3 is a modern day Edomite pastor standing in when he allowed slaves to preach the Bible. Because remember, when we were finally allowed to read and write, you had an Edomite standing there. I don't even know what that is. You had an Edomite standing behind Jake speaking, and he would oversee you.
oh, yeah. Well,
To make sure you ain't say nothing crazy.
Wow.
That's what the 501c3 is. Some fucking he, she like that.
Hey, the fuck was
He
that?
wanted you to. He wanted them to teach. You know, like to keep working hard. That's
Exactly.
what these pastors do.
And that's what Esau, that's what Jake is doing right now. They're fighting for Esau.
Yeah,
So you're fighting to keep weave in your hair.
to be a better slave.
Yeah.
And it reads, Isaiah 9:7.
Don't no one love Esau more than Jake.
That's true.
I don't know who loves Esau more, Eve or Jake, man. Serious, it's a hard
It's neck and neck.
it's a hard R with that.
Man.
It's a hard ER with that.
Man. And it reads,
Cause I didn't even like Esau like that in the world.
yeah, hell no.
Even in the world,
Yeah.
when I was into Christianity, I would open be like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I hate white people, just me and white males don't get along.
Yep.
Me and white women got along just fine. But it was their